Hello sports fans, it's me, Sportsman Z, Bob Zolke, and I've got another card and dice game for you here today. Today we're going to do the 1978 Atlanta Braves against the 1985 San Diego Padres. If you watch the previous game I played, many of the same things will still come into play. I'm going to be doing the elementary version of the game, the front of the cards, because it's just easier and quicker, and I like doing the front of the cards anyway. And we will be, we're going to be playing the front of the cards. It's going to be the 78 Braves at the 85 Padres. The starting pitchers for the game tonight for the visiting Atlanta Braves, the starting pitcher will be Phil Niekro. And I don't know if you can see, maybe it's not focusing right, I don't know, but anyway, there's Phil Niekro's card. And the starting pitcher for the San Diego Padres will be Eric Shaw. And there's his card. Hopefully that's focusing enough for you to see his card. So it'll be Niekro against Shaw. One interesting note about this game is that Jerry Royster is on both teams. He was on both the 78 Braves and the 85 Padres. And I have decided that since he is starting for the 78 Braves, he will be ineligible to play for the 85 Padres. I will be rolling the dice over here, and also let's go through the records. These are the envelopes for the teams. And you can see that the Braves were 69 and 93, and in last place in the NL West. So there's their packet. And the 85 Padres were 83 and 79 and tied for third in the NL West. And so there's the packet for them. So the Padres were a little better team, but we'll see. This is just one game, and really in baseball, any team can win any particular game. I'm going to be rolling the dice over here. I don't know, you can see like the corner of, there's a box. I'm not going to do it. Well, you know what? I guess I can, because we've got some barriers here. So I guess I will roll it on the board so you can see it. Hopefully that'll work out, and the dice won't fall on the floor too much, because I don't want to be going and trying to dig up loose dice from the floor when they fall on the floor. So anyway, let's get underway with our game here in San Diego. The first batter will be, and I've got the charts are down here, so I will be referring to the charts. I don't have room for those on the desk, so I'll be referring to the charts when something comes up. But we've got Jerry Royster batting first for the visiting Braves, and I'll announce the lineups. I'm going to keep the score sheets over here. I'll announce the lineups as the players come up. So Jerry Royster is up first for the Braves, and he gets a 5-4 on Eric Shaw, and that's a center field X. And the center fielder today for the Padres is Kevin McReynolds, and he is a 2. So we roll the 20-sided die, and we have a 15, and I'm thinking that's probably going to be something bad for the Padres. It is. Single and air, batter on second. So Jerry Royster gets a single and an air. So an E8, and that advances him to second. and the air was on McReynolds. So runner at first, or runner at second with no outs. Jeff Burrows is up. I think this might have been the year. Anybody can leave comments below. But I think this might have been the year that he was the rookie of the year. Maybe the rookie of the year in the National League. Not sure. But anyway, Jeff Burrows, the left fielder, batting second, and he gets a 5-7, and that's a second base X. The second baseman for the Padres today is Tim Flannery, and he's a 3. So we roll the dice again, the 20-sider again, and that's a 3-3, and that's going to be bad for the Padres. That is a single 1. So we have Burrows getting a single, and Royster goes to third, and there is nobody out with runners at the corners, and that brings up Mighty Dale Murphy. And Murphy today is playing first base, and he gets a 4-8 on Shaw, and that's a shortstop, and the shortstop is Gary Templeton, and he's a 1. And that's a 19 and a 1 at short, and that's an out double play, but a run scores. So Murphy grounds into a 6-4-3, but Royster does score, and that is, let's see, he's given up 2 hits. Shaw was given up 2 hits, and that is an earned run. And then Bob Horner is up. And Bob Horner today is playing third. This particular year, Bob Horner hit .266 with 23 home runs in 323 at-bats. And he gets a 1-6, which is a ground ball out to third base. So he is 5-3. But the Braves do strike for 1 run in that inning. And that'll bring up the San Diego Padres of 1985. And they will lead off with Gary Templeton, the shortstop, against Phil Niekro. And he gets a 4-9, which is a strikeout. So Templeton strikes out. That's the first strikeout of the game. Tim Flannery comes up, and he's the second baseman today, and he gets a 6-5, which is a ground ball shortstop X. And the shortstop for the Braves today is Darrell Cheney, and he is a 4. And that's a 16 and a 4 at short, which is a 1-base error. So Flannery gets on by an E6, and that is Cheney, who we will charge the air to. And now that brings up Tony Gwynn. The right fielder playing right field today is Tony Gwynn, with 1 man on and one man out. And he gets a 1-2, and that's a pop out to first. So pop out 3, and that is 2 down, and that brings up Carmelo Martinez. 6-7 on Phil Niekro is a second base X. And their second baseman is Royster, and he's a 2, and that's a 5. It's probably an out, and it is. So Martinez is out 4-3. And no runs come across for the Padres. So we go to the top of the second. And in the top of the second, we will have Gary Matthews leading off against Shaw. And he gets a 4-8, and a 4-8 is a shortstop X. Or wait a minute. Yeah, 4-8 on Shaw was a shortstop X, and he's a 1. And that's a 10, and that is an out. So Gary Matthews goes 6-3. And then that brings up Roland Office, and Roland Office today is playing center field. he gets a 5-4, and a 5-4 on Shao is center field again. Center fielder is a 2. That's a 7-2. I'm pretty sure that's an out. Out 5. 2 away. So that was a fly out to 8. And then that brings up Daryl Cheney, the second baseman. He's playing, or the shortstop. He's playing shortstop today, and he's a 4 at shortstop, but he's playing 4-6. On Shao is a strikeout for Cheney, so Shao gets his first strikeout of the game, and Atlanta gets no runs in the second. And now that brings up Steve Garvey. And Steve Garvey is playing first base today for the Padres, and he gets a 1-8, and that is a triple 1-4 or a single. And he gets a single. So that's a hit off of Phil Niekro, the first hit of the day off Niekro. That brings up Kevin McReynolds, no outs, man at first. He gets a 1-9, and that's a ground ball short into a double play. So 6-4-3, and that's 2 outs. And then Greg Nettles is up, and Greg Nettles is playing third today for the Padres, third base 2. And that's a 5-7 on Niekro, and that's a strikeout for Nettles. So Niekro with his second strikeout of the day, and the Padres get no runs there. We go to the third. Daryl Cheney, the the shortstop, comes up. Or no, he was the last out. So now, leading off the third for the Atlanta Braves is Biff Pocoroba, and he is the catcher. He gets a 1-9, and that's a ground ball to second base. So he has a ground out 4-3. That brings up the pitcher, and that's Phil Niekro, and he is a 4-hitting pitcher. 6-7 is a walk. So Phil Niekro draws a walk off of Shao. First walk of the day for either team. And Jerry Royster comes up with 1 out, and 6-8 is a single 1-11 for Royster. And he gets instead a line out to shortstop. So there's 2 out. Line out to 6. So there's 2 away. And that brings up Jeff Burrows, and he gets a walk. 3-6 is a walk on Burrows' card. So Burrows goes to first, and Niekro to second. 2 outs, and Mighty Dale is up. And 6-8 on Shao is a single 1-11. And he does get a single. So the bases are loaded. Murphy with the single, Burrows to second, and Niekro over at third. The bases are full of Braves, and that brings up Bob Horner. Not what Shao wants to see, and he strikes out. So Shao with the strikeout, and no runs across for the Braves, although they did threaten that inning. And then that brings up Terry Kennedy. Terry Kennedy catching today for the 85 Padres. And he will lead off the bottom of the third against Phil Niekro. And he gets a 3-6, which is a fly ball right field. So, fly out to 9. Oh, wait. Put it in the wrong place. Fly out to 9. And then that brings up Gary Templeton. Or no, Eric Shao. Eric Shao, hold on, I gotta get the pitcher's hitting card. I did not get that. And Eric Shao is a 1 pitcher hitting. So Shao rolls the bones, and it's a 5-7. Niekro is a strikeout. So Shao strikes out, and that's Niekro's third strikeout of the day. And that, I think, no. And then that brings up Gary Templeton with 2 outs. And he gets a 3-9, which is a strikeout. So Gary Templeton strikes out. And that's Phil Niekro's 4th strikeout. He struck out 4 guys through 4 Padres through 3 innings. And that brings up the Sarge, Gary Matthews, for Atlanta. And Gary Matthews today is playing right field, and he's going to lead off the top of the 4th inning against Eric Shao. And he gets a 1-7, which is a walk. So the Sarge walks, and that's a walk for Shao. And that brings up Roland Office. 2-4 is a ground ball pitcher double play. So Roland Office grounds into a let's see, 1-4-3 double play. And so there is 2 down. And that brings up Daryl Cheney. And 3-6 is a pop out to first base. So Daryl Cheney is out to 3. And then that brings up, there's no runs for Atlanta there in the 4th. And now in the bottom of the 4th, that brings up Tim Flannery for the Padres, for the 85 Padres, in the bottom of the 4th, to lead off the bottom of the 4th for the Padres. And he gets a 4-7, which is a strikeout, and that's another strikeout for the ageless one, Phil Niekro, who has his 5th strikeout of the night. Tony Gwynn in right field is next, and he gets a 6-3, and that's a ground ball to first base. The first baseman for the Braves is Mighty Dale, and he was a 4 at first. And there's an 18-4, and that's an out. So Gwynn is out. So let's see, we'll just say ground out to first base. And now that brings up Carmelo Martinez. And he gets a 1-7, and that is a ground ball B. So Carmelo Martinez, and that was a ground ball B to third base. So he grounds out 5-3. And that's 3 outs for the Padres there. So they get no runs in the 4th, and we go to the top of the 5th. Still with the Braves clinging to a 1-run lead behind the great pitching of Phil Niekro. And now Biff Pocaroba, is that right? Biff Pocaroba? Yeah, Biff Pocaroba leading off the 5th. And he gets a 1-8, and that's a pop out to 3rd. So pop out to 5. And that brings up Phil Niekro for his 2nd at bat. And he gets a 2-5, which is a ground ball second base A. So he gets a 4-3. And that brings up Jerry Royster. 5-5, and that's, 5-5, and that's fly ball center field C. So fly out to 8. And the Padres push none across in the 5th. We go to the bottom of the 5th with Steve Garvey up. And Steve Garvey gets a pop out to third base on a roll of 3-9. Pop out 5. 1 away. Kevin McReynolds gets a 1-8, and that's a ground ball third base A, so he grounds out 5-3. And that brings up Greg Nettles, and that's a 6-3, and 6-3 on Phil Niekro is a first base X, and that's Mighty Dale, and he's a 4, and that's a 3, so that's going to be a single. Single for Greg Nettles. And only the second hit allowed by Niekro, which brings up Terry Kennedy, the catcher, with 2 outs and a man at first. And he gets a 2-4, which is a ground ball pitcher A. So he is out, and that ends the inning for them. So 1-3. No runs in the 5th. We go to the top of the 6th. And that brings up Jerry Royster. It's the top of the order for the... no, he flew out last time. So that brings up... Jeff Burrows in the 6th for Atlanta to lead off the 6th inning. And he gets a 3-5, which is a walk. So Burrows gets a walk. And Shaw walks his 3rd guy of the day. And that brings up, with no outs and a man at first, Mighty Dale, Dale Murphy. And he gets a 2-3, which is a ground ball shortstop A double play. So 6-4-3. And that's 2 out. And that brings up Bob Horner, the 3rd baseman. 6-9 on Shaw's card is a double 1-10 or a single. And he gets a double out of that. So Bob Horner does hit a double. And that's the 3rd hit given up by Shaw. So the Braves have, with 2 outs, they have a runner at second, and Gary Matthews, the Sarge, is out. And he gets a 6-7, and that's a walk. So Shaw walks the Sarge. And that is the 4th walk of the day for Shaw. And that brings up Roland Office with 2 outs and runners on, and he gets a line out to second base. Line out to 4. And so the Braves pushed none across in the 6th. And now we go to the bottom of the 6th inning. And leading off the bottom of the 6th inning, it would have been Eric Shaw, except they are not going to lead off with Eric Shaw. They're going to lead off with a pinch hitter. And the pinch hitter is going to be Kurt Bavacqua, and we'll write him in. And warming up in the Padres bullpen is Craig Lefferts. So we'll be bringing Craig Lefferts in. And we're going to close the book. That means we're closing the book on Shaw. He pitched 6 innings. He allowed 3 hits, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4. He allowed 4 hits. He pitched 6 innings, allowed 4 hits, and walked 4 guys. So he allowed a lot of base runners, but only 1 earned run. And Kurt Bavacqua will pinch hit for him right here against Phil Niekro. And he gets a 1-6, which is a pop-out. So, and that's a pop-out to 3rd base. So Bavacqua leads off the 6th by popping out to 5. And so that will put him out of action for the rest of the day. And that brings up Gary Templeton, the shortstop. And he is 4-6 on Niekro is a walk. So Templeton walks. And Niekro has walked his first man of the day, it looks like. And now Tim Flannery's up with 1 out. And he gets a 2-4, which is a ground ball B, so that's a fielder's choice, and he is now at first base. So that is, let's see, 2-4, ground ball pitcher B, so that was 1-4. And now with 2 outs and Flannery at first, we have Tony Gwynn up. And Tony Gwynn gets a single double asterisk, which moves the runner to third. Tony Gwynn with the single. And the hit allowed by Necro. And that moves Flannery over to third. And now Carmelo Martinez comes up with 2 outs, runners at the corners, and he gets a 1-2, which is a ground ball third base A. So they get out of it. 5-3, no runs across for the Padres, although they did threaten there. And now Craig Lefferts is on as the new pitcher for the 85 Padres, pitching to Darrell Cheney. And he gets a 3-10 double 1-16 or a single. And that's going to be a single for Darrell Cheney, leading off the 7th. And that's the first hit allowed by Lefferts. And that brings up Biff Pocoroba, who gets a 1-7, which is a ground ball shortstop A. So Biff Pocoroba hits into a 6-4-3 double play, and there are 2 outs. And that brings up Phil Necro, and he is pitching too well to take him out. So 2-6, the ground ball shortstop, so he goes 6-3. And they get no runs there. And they will keep Phil Necro out there. And Steve Garvey is up in the 7th inning, the Padres 7th, the bottom of the 7th. And he gets a 4-7, and that is a strikeout. So, strikeout for Garvey, and that is Necro's 6th strikeout of the day. Kevin McReynolds, he gets a 4-9, and that's a strikeout, so there's 2 away. And that's the 7th strikeout for Necro. And Greg Nettles gets a 6-10, which is a ground ball third base X. Third base for the 78 Braves is Horner, and he's a 4 at third base, and that's a 6, and that's going to be a single. So Nettles gets a single. And that brings up Terry Kennedy with 2 down and a runner at first. And that's a 4-8, and that's a strikeout for Terry Kennedy. So that's the 8th strikeout today for Necro. So Necro is just, I mean, the 85 Padres just cannot solve Phil Necro. And they will, the 78 Braves will lead off the 8th with Jerry Royster. And he gets a 3-8, which is a line out to shortstop. Line out to 6, 1 away. Jeff Burrows comes up, and he gets a 6-8, and that is a single 1-2. And that is going to be a line out to second base. So he gets a line out to 4. And that brings up Dale Murphy, Mighty Dale, and he gets a ground ball third base X, and the third baseman for the Padres is Nettles, and he's a 2, and that's an 18 and a 2, which is an out. So Dale Murphy goes 5-3. And the Braves get nothing in the 8th. And that brings up the Padres in the bottom of the 8th. And that brings up Lefferts, except that Lefferts will not hit. They will bring up a pinch hitter for Lefferts. And the pinch hitter for Lefferts will be, They really didn't have a lot of, they had a lot of pitchers, but they didn't have. The pinch hitter is going to be Bruce Bochy, the recently retired manager of the San Francisco Giants, as most people today might know him, but he was at one time a catcher in the major leagues, and he will be the pinch hitter. Mainly due to the fact that he had 6 home runs and 112 at-bats, so he could get a hold of one. 6'8" on Phil Niekro is a pop out to first base. So, Bruce Bochy in the 8th pops out to 3. And so he's done for the day. And we will have to get somebody else up for the Padres in the bullpen. And getting up for in the bullpen for the Padres will be Rich Goose Gossage. And Gary Templeton comes up with 1 out in the 8th. 2-7 is a single for Gary Templeton. So Gary Templeton rips a single, and that is the 5th hit given up by Niekro. And that brings up Tim Flannery. And he gets a 4-8, which is a strikeout, so that's 2 away. And that is the 9th strikeout for Nutsy. And that brings up Tony Gwynn. And Tony Gwynn hits into a double play to the pitcher. Or actually not a double play, he just hit to the pitcher and it goes 1-3 because there was already 2 outs. So, the Padres struck for nothing there. And the 78 Atlanta Braves, ladies and gentlemen, are holding on to a slim 1-run lead. Going to the top of the 9th and leading off with Bob Horner against Goose Gossage. And he gets a 1-5, which is a ground ball to shortstop. So that is that's going to be 6-3. And then that brings up Gary Matthews, the Sarge, and he gets a 1-4, which is a ground ball to short. So that's 6-3 as well. And then that brings up Roland Office, and he gets a 2-8, which is a home run 1-11 for Roland Office, and he hits it out. Roland Office gets a home run off the Goose. Who would have seen that coming? So that's a second hit. This is Gossage. And so actually, Lefferts only went 2, and then Gossage he's in the 9th right now, and he gives up a hit and an earned run. And with 2 outs, that brings up, after Roland Office's homer, brings up Darrell Cheney. And that's a 4-4 on Gossage, which is a single. So I believe Darrell Cheney has his second hit of the day. Yes, he does. And that brings up Biff Pocoroba. And he gets a 4-6, which is a single. The Goose is just giving up hits left and right here. It's a going out of business sale for the Goose. And with 2 on and 2 out, that brings up the pitcher, Phil Niekro, and they're going to stick with Phil Niekro. And he gets a 5-9, and that's a ground ball second base C. So, second base is 4-3. No runs coming, or actually 1 run, sorry. 1 run across for the Braves, who now lead 2-0 going to the bottom of the 9th. And Phil Niekro is out there trying to get the complete game shutout with Carmelo Martinez up against him. And that's a 4-8, and that will be a strikeout. So Carmelo Martinez striking out, and that's the 10th strikeout for Nutsy. And that brings up Steve Garvey. Steve Garvey with a 6-9. That is a ground ball, 2 away. Gee, did this guy have any hits on his card? Anyway. Steve Garvey, what, 6'9", that's a ground ball, second base C, so 4-3. And then that brings up Kevin McReynolds, the last chance for the 85 Padres, and he strikes out at 2-7. And that puts the capper on his Necro's 11th strikeout. So Necro goes the complete game, 9 innings, allows 5 hits, walked 1 batter, and struck out 11 for no earned runs. And the Braves win the game 2-0. Eric Shaw went 6, allowed 4 hits, 4 walks, struck out 2 guys, and allowed only 1 earned run. Lefferts went 2 scoreless, and then Gossage gave up the home run to Roland Office in the 9th, and the only inning that he pitched. So that's a 2-0 win for the 78 Atlanta Braves over the 85 Padres. I hope you enjoyed the game. If there are any other matchups that you want to see, let me know. I'm happy to dig through. I have tons of seasons and tons of teams, pretty much every team from the seasons that I do have, and I do have a lot of seasons. So any matchup you want to see, give me suggestions, and I will be happy to play those games in the future. I played this, I want to make a note also, I played this game at my desk instead of on the floor because I played the previous game that I did, the previous card and dice game I did on the floor, and it really kind of hurt my legs and my back, so I am getting on in years. So I decided this time it would be easier to do it on my desk. So anyway, let me know what you thought of that. Give me a thumbs up if you liked the video. Send it to your friends. Let your friends know about the channel. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. I can do more games like this in the future. I also plan to keep doing the computer game of the week, the computer baseball. And also I've got my Strat-O-Matic football season going on, college football. If you've seen that or are interested in it, check that out. But a lot of good content on the channel, and I like how it's going, and I always welcome comments. But for right now, this is Sportsman Z, Bob Zalke, signing off.